The first warning reached the Galactic Council before the human ever arrived. Do not allow him access to the battlefield. The message came from a colony that no longer existed. No explanation. No survivor interviews. Only one final transmission repeated across every emergency frequency. If the human is still alive, then we still have hope. Commander Valus stared at the recording in complete silence. Around him, dozens of alien representatives argued across the massive council chamber orbiting the blue star of Erinder. A single human, one senator laughed. Impossible. They are a young species. They have barely joined interstellar civilization. They cannot change a planetary war. Valus said nothing. The footage refused to leave his mind. Entire mountain ranges burned beneath black clouds. Cities had disappeared beneath oceans of molten glass. And through all that destruction, one tiny figure kept walking. Not running. Not hiding. Walking. Every explosion landed behind him as if the battlefield itself had failed to stop him. The image ended before anyone could identify the human. Only one thing remained visible. A damaged combat suit. And a silver wolf painted across one shoulder. 3 days later, the transport shuttle drifted into Dock 7 aboard Frontier Station Helios. Merchants hurried through customs. Refugees carried whatever remained of their lives. Security drones scanned every passenger. Nobody noticed the last man leaving the shuttle. He wore simple gray clothes. One worn travel bag rested across his shoulder. His boots looked older than some of the station workers. Dark brown hair. Calm gray eyes. Nothing about him looked dangerous. The scanner paused for half a second. Identity confirmed. Elias Thorne. Species: human. Occupation listed: civilian contractor. The security officer barely looked up. Welcome to Helios Station. Elias simply nodded. Thank you. Then he disappeared into the crowd. Inside another part of the station, Commander Valus received an emergency update. The mining colony on Vargos 4 has gone silent. His assistant looked terrified. Same pattern. Yes. No distress signals? None. Valus slowly stood. The Ashbourne fleet. The assistant swallowed. Our long-range sensors detected them leaving orbit exactly 2 hours ago. Every officer inside the command room became quiet. Nobody liked speaking that name aloud. The Ashbourne were not pirates. Not conquerors. They destroyed civilizations simply to erase history. Planets. Libraries. Space stations. Entire species. If they discovered intelligent life, they hunted it until nothing remained. For nearly 80 years the Galactic Alliance had failed to stop them. Every fleet sent against them vanished. Every strategy failed. Every prediction proved wrong. They adapted faster than anyone could fight. We need another military convoy. One admiral shook his head. There isn't one. Our nearest fleet is 11 days away. The colony has perhaps 6 hours. Silence filled the room. Until someone quietly asked, "What about hiring freelancers?" Several officers laughed. Against the Ashbourne, freelancers survived cargo escorts, not extinction fleets. Meanwhile, Elias finally found what he had been searching for. A tiny cafe hidden beneath the lower docking platforms. The coffee smelled surprisingly real. He smiled. 1 cup. The old owner poured the drink. You passing through? For now. You military? Not anymore. The old man nodded. I can always tell. Elias looked slightly surprised. Really? You soldiers never sit facing the wall. Elias laughed softly. You've met many. Enough. The owner placed the cup on the table. No matter the species, veterans always watch the exits. For the first time that day, Elias relaxed. The peaceful moment lasted exactly 43 seconds. Station alarms screamed. Red emergency lights flooded every corridor. People started running. Emergency broadcasts echoed overhead. Warning! Ashbourne warships detected. All civilians seek shelter immediately. The cafe owner froze. His hands began shaking. They're here. Outside the station windows. Space itself seemed to tear apart. 1, 3, 7. Then dozens of enormous black ships emerged from faster-than-light travel. Each vessel looked less like a spacecraft, and more like a floating fortress carved from obsidian. No lights. No markings. Only endless armor. Every person who saw them stopped breathing. The Ashborn never attacked stations unless they wanted everyone dead. Commander Valus rushed onto the bridge. Status. Enemy fleet surrounding the station. Count. The tactical officer looked pale. 82 confirmed warships. The room became silent. Heliostation possessed defensive weapons. Enough to stop pirates. Enough to discourage raiders. Not this. Never this. One officer whispered. We're already dead. Far below. Elias calmly finished his coffee. The owner stared. You have to run. Elias looked through the cafe window at the growing enemy fleet. No. What? If everyone runs? He quietly stood. Who stays behind? The owner blinked. You're just one man. Elias picked up his old travel bag. For several seconds, he simply looked at it, like someone remembering another lifetime. Then he slowly unzipped the worn fabric. Inside rested a black combat helmet. Its surface carried hundreds of scratches. A silver wolf emblem stretched across one side, exactly like the figure from the forgotten recording. The cafe owner suddenly couldn't breathe. His eyes widened. No. Elias gently lifted the helmet. Far across the station, Commander Valus received a security notification. One forgotten military identification had just activated after nearly 12 years offline. His screen flashed a name that had been erased from every official record. Authorized personnel detected. Legion Unit. Ghost Company. Captain Elias Thorne. Status. The computer paused, then displayed words nobody believed they would ever see. Last survivor. Every alarm aboard Heliostation suddenly changed. The warning sirens stopped. A new automated voice echoed through every corridor. Military clearance recognized. Ghost Company command authority restored. No one understood what it meant. Not the frightened civilians. Not the station guards. Not even Commander Valus. He stared at the glowing message on his tactical display. Ghost Company. One of the oldest officers beside him slowly stood. His face had turned pale. I've heard that name before. Valus looked at him. You have. The officer nodded. When I was a cadet, instructors told us there were stories you never repeated unless you wanted everyone to think you were crazy. They spoke about an experimental human unit. A unit sent where entire armies refused to go. They never rescued planets. They rescued hope. The bridge fell silent. But they all died, another officer whispered. So the records claimed, the old officer answered. Far below. Elias stepped into the station armory. The robotic quartermaster activated after years of inactivity. Its optical sensor scanned him twice. Then 3 times. Finally it spoke. Identity confirmed. Welcome back. Captain Thorne. Large security doors unlocked one after another. Dust filled the enormous underground chamber. Rows of weapons rested exactly where they had been left over a decade earlier. Most had become museum pieces. One equipment locker slowly opened by itself. Inside waited a black combat suit unlike anything used by the modern alliance. It looked simple. No glowing lights. No oversized armor. Just smooth dark plating covered with countless scratches. Every mark represented a battle survived. Elias placed one hand against the chest plate. For a brief moment, his calm expression disappeared. Old memories flooded back. Friends laughing before impossible missions. Names carved onto helmets. Voices that would never answer again. Ghost Company had once numbered 200 soldiers. Now, only one locker opened. Several minutes later, Commander Valus reached the armory personally. The massive doors slid apart. He expected to find a squad preparing for battle. Instead, only one man stood there. Elias finished locking his helmet into place. Valus couldn't hide his confusion. You can't possibly intend to fight 82 warships. Elias checked the charge level of an old pulse rifle. I don't. Valus frowned. Then what exactly are you planning? The human looked toward the ceiling. I'm going after the one giving orders. Outside the station, the Ashborn fleet slowly surrounded Helios. Thousands of attack drones poured from their carriers like black insects. Every civilian watching from observation windows believed they were witnessing their final moments. Then, one small shuttle left the station. No escort. No weapons visible. No defensive formation. Just one tiny vessel flying directly toward the enemy fleet. The Ashborn commander noticed immediately. What vessel approaches? The sensor officer answered. Human shuttle. Only one life sign. The commander remained silent, then gave a single order. Destroy it. 20 attack drones accelerated. Laser fire illuminated the darkness. The shuttle should have exploded instantly. Instead, it vanished. Not through faster-than-light travel. Not cloaking technology. It simply disappeared from every targeting screen. Ashborn operators checked their sensors again. Nothing. The shuttle no longer existed. Then one drone exploded. Another vanished. A third broke apart without transmitting any warning. Across the fleet, pilots reported impossible readings. There is something moving between us. We can't lock onto it. Our sensors keep losing the target. The commander narrowed his glowing eyes. Magnify visual feeds. The image sharpened. A black armored figure raced across open space. Not inside a ship. Outside. Using magnetic thrusters attached to his boots. He jumped from drifting wreckage to wreckage with impossible precision. Every movement predicted enemy fire before it happened. Every landing placed him exactly where another drone would appear. He wasn't stronger than the machines. He was simply always one step ahead. Back aboard Helios, Valus watched in complete disbelief. He's fighting outside? The old officer quietly nodded. Human rangers trained in zero-gravity combat. No. Valus whispered. This isn't training. This is instinct. Within minutes, 37 attack drones had been destroyed. Not with overwhelming firepower. With mathematics. Every explosion damaged another nearby drone. Every drifting fragment became another weapon. Every mistake made by the Ashborn became another advantage for the lone human. The enemy fleet slowly stopped advancing. For the first time in decades, Ashborn commanders hesitated. Deep inside the massive flagship, Supreme Commander Xerox finally stood from his throne. He was the oldest Ashborn still alive. Entire civilizations had surrendered after hearing his name. He examined the battlefield himself. One tiny human. One outdated combat suit. One rifle centuries behind modern technology. Yet, an entire fleet had slowed its advance. Xerox spoke quietly. Display his service record. The artificial intelligence searched every known database. Several files appeared. Then instantly disappeared. Access denied. Classified by Terran High Command. Xerox's expression darkened. Search older archives. The system obeyed. One damaged record survived. Only 3 readable lines remained. Ghost Company. Mission success rate 100%. Casualty rate 99.5%. Even Xerox remained silent. A unit that completed every impossible mission, while almost every soldier died doing it. He looked again at the lone figure crossing open space. So, he murmured, that is the last ghost. At that exact moment, Elias landed on the outer hull of the Ashborn flagship. He looked toward the enormous command tower towering above him, then activated a small beacon attached to his wrist. Back on Helios Station, Ancient military satellites hidden across the system suddenly woke from decades of silence. Their power cores began glowing. Commander Valus stared as dozens of forgotten human defense platforms emerged from behind dead moons and abandoned asteroids. The tactical computer identified them with a single message. Autonomous Legion Network reactivated. Every weapon in the system had just answered one man's command. The ancient satellites came alive one by one. Hidden inside shattered moons. Buried beneath abandoned mining stations. Floating silently inside forgotten asteroid belts. For nearly 30 years they had remained asleep. Now every system recognized a single command. Ghost Company authorization accepted. Commander Valus watched hundreds of holographic icons appear across his tactical display. His officers stared in disbelief. We never detected those weapons. They were hidden before our alliance even existed. Another message appeared. Legion Defense Grid Online. Awaiting Captain's command. Far beyond the station, Elias stood on the black hull of the Ashbourne flagship. His helmet displayed thousands of calculations every second. Enemy patrols searched only meters away. He stayed perfectly still. Patience had always been Ghost Company's greatest weapon. Finally, he moved. Like a shadow crossing darkness. No wasted motion. No panic. Only perfect timing. Within minutes he reached the command tower. A single maintenance hatch blocked his path. He placed a small device against the lock. No explosion. No sparks. Only silence. The door slowly opened. Inside the flagship, Supreme Commander Xerox waited. He had dismissed every guard. His species believed leaders should face worthy enemies themselves. The massive chamber remained quiet as Elias stepped inside. The towering alien studied the lone human. So, Xerox said calmly, the last ghost finally arrives. Elias lowered his rifle. I didn't come to kill soldiers. You came for me. Yes. The alien laughed softly. You believe my death ends this war? No. Elias answered. But it gives everyone else a chance to finish it. Xerox activated his massive energy blade. Blue fire filled the chamber. I have conquered 61 civilizations. I know. I erased species older than your sun. I read the reports. And still, Xerox smiled. You walked into my flagship. Elias finally removed his helmet. His face remained completely calm. Because fear has never won a war. Without another word, the battle began. Xerox struck first. The enormous blade sliced through steel walls. Elias rolled beneath the attack. His old combat knife flashed once. Twice. 3 times. The alien blocked every strike. The difference in strength was overwhelming. Each impact threw Elias across the chamber. Blood appeared on his forehead. His shoulder armor cracked. Yet every time, he stood again. Xerox frowned. You cannot defeat me. Elias wiped the blood from his eye. I don't need to. He pressed a small switch hidden inside his glove. Across the entire star system, every ancient defense satellite rotated toward the Ashbourne fleet. Commander Valus immediately understood. He was never attacking the flagship. He was buying us time. The tactical officer looked up. Captain, the satellites are requesting firing permission. Valus smiled for the first time that day. They're not asking me. Inside the flagship, a calm female computer voice echoed through every hidden satellite. Final authorization confirmed. Ghost Company Protocol 7 activated. Hundreds of ancient weapons fired together. Not toward planets. Not toward civilians. Every beam struck only Ashbourne warships. Perfect accuracy. The enemy fleet collapsed into chaos. Cruisers lost power. Drone carriers exploded. Command ships disappeared beneath waves of white light. Helio Station joined the battle. Alliance warships arriving from nearby systems finally entered combat. For the first time in 80 years, the Ashbourne were retreating. Inside the command chamber, warning alarms filled the flagship. Xerox looked toward the burning fleet outside. My empire. Elias answered quietly. Your fear built it. The alien roared and charged one final time. Elias waited. 1 step. 2 steps. At the last possible second, he moved aside. Xeroc's own momentum carried him directly into the damaged reactor control pillar. The impact shattered its containment field. The flagship began collapsing around them. Red emergency lights flashed everywhere. The alien slowly realized what had happened. You planned this. Elias nodded. From the moment I boarded. The reactor entered critical failure. There wasn't enough time for both of them to escape. Xeroc laughed. You die with me. Elias smiled faintly. Maybe. Suddenly, a rescue shuttle burst through the collapsing hangar doors. Commander Valus himself stood inside. Captain, move. Elias looked once toward Xeroc. The Ashborn leader remained standing beside the failing reactor. He made no attempt to flee. Warriors sometimes accepted the ending they had earned. Elias climbed aboard. Seconds later, the shuttle escaped as the flagship disappeared inside a brilliant sphere of light. The explosion illuminated the entire battlefield. Then, silence. Hours later, the surviving Ashborn ships surrendered. Without Xeroc's command, their endless campaign ended. Across the galaxy, worlds celebrated for the first time in generations. Children who had grown up beneath constant war finally saw peaceful skies. Entire civilizations survived because one human refused to run. 3 days later, Helio Station held no grand parade. Elias had declined every medal, every speech, every interview. He quietly packed his old travel bag, the same worn bag he had carried onto the station. Commander Valus found him near Dock 7. You saved billions. Elias smiled. I wasn't alone. You fought alone. I finished a mission. He looked toward the stars. But Ghost Company won it. Valus lowered his head respectfully. They'll remember your name. Elias gently shook his head. No. Remember theirs. He handed Valus a small data chip. It contained 200 names. Every soldier who had served beside him. Every friend who never came home. They're the reason I'm still here. An hour later, a small civilian transport quietly departed Helio Station. No escort. No ceremony. Just another traveler disappearing into the endless stars. Somewhere in another distant system. Someone would need help. Someone would believe hope had disappeared. And sooner or later, a quiet human carrying an old travel bag would walk through another station door. Not searching for glory. Only looking for a good cup of coffee before the next impossible mission. Because across the galaxy, people finally understood the truth about humanity. Humans were never the strongest.